Well, hey there, I'm Kelly Thomas, and this is our very first show for Gnarly Metal After Hours. It's a new show here that we're featuring on gnarly101.com. It is a live show that's on air one Saturday a month, and it features conversations with radio announcers, musicians, and fans about radio, rock, and records of the 80s. It's a rock show and a talk show, and it starts at 1 p.m. Mountain Time. So welcome and thanks for hanging out with us. My guest today is the band Mad Rygel from Colorado Springs. They're a band that plays a fusion of rock, blues, and punk, and I welcome my friend Brett and my friend Mike of Mad Rygel. I want to have you guys start out real quickly by introducing yourselves. And I know you have a third band member who was unable to make it today, so let's make some mention of him and his involvement with the band as well. So whenever you're ready, actually, Brett, since you're directly in front of me, why don't you go first?
My name is Brett Chadwick. I just love to sing. Started singing to all the greats like Elvis, and then I picked up a guitar for an accompaniment because you couldn't find anybody else to play. So that started me on the road where I'm at right now. And I finally met Mike and Michael, and these guys are great. These guys are fantastic to play with. I started writing songs too when I was very young. I think that's the real reason I picked up the guitar. I want to write, because I was always running around town and just singing the lyrics to myself and writing stuff. So that's what took me down that path, and it's a wonderful path because I don't have a degree in music like everybody else, but what I do have is a lot of practical experience of writing lyrics.
And you have a lot of talent too, I might add. And I'm not saying that just because you're one of my closest friends, but I'm speaking truthfully as someone who's enjoyed listening to your music for a while. You do have a lot of talent as well.
Thank you very much.
And I'm Michael Lupton. I like to be called Mike, though, but I'm a transplant from Louisiana. I've only lived in Colorado Springs for 12 years. But immediately when I got here, the music scene treated me very well, and I've played amazing shows here in town. I've been in a couple of really great bands that have done some really awesome things. Just more experiences of being on the road playing shows. It's just exactly what I want to do.
All right, excellent.
And a third member, Michael.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Talk about Michael.
Michael Robinson is a fantastic drummer, but he's also a teacher right now at
the Vanguard School.
Vanguard School, yes.
Nice.
He's teaching music there. He went to college for teaching, basically. And now we met him at School of Rock, but then he moved on to much better things. He's an amazing artist. Really fun to work with.
And not just the drummer, he can play guitar, he can play bass, he can play keyboards. Yes,
yeah.
He's very versatile when it comes to being able to arrange music and write music and things like that too.
He hears what we don't and hear what he doesn't, and that's a great combination for collaboration.
Yep.
Yeah, it sounds like a great synergy to have, to be able to work together as a band that way. I would think you need to have some aspect of collaboration. So I'm the oldest of 4 kids, and I have a younger sister and 2 younger brothers. And one of my brothers, so the older of my 2 brothers, he was in a band for a while, and one of the things he said about being in a band is he always felt like you picked your bandmates the same way you would pick a spouse or a partner. That in order for that collaboration to take place, in order for the agreements or disagreements that might take place, you needed to have somebody who you were really kind of solid with, and you could have that push and pull dynamic in the relationship. Do you guys feel like your band as it is has a component of that to it?
All bands do,
Yeah.
but but actually knowing that you're actually selecting some close partner to you rather than just a casual friend or anything like that. All of a sudden it becomes, oh, this got really personal, and things like that happen in bands. But being in a lot of bands, you just know when to pick your fights and know when to stand up for what you believe in. Musically, that's the main thing. It's like, I don't think it should go that way, or let's try it a different way. And having someone be receptive to that is actually like a godsend. That's that will make a band more successful.
And I think it's all about open communication. If you have open communication, you can discuss anything and without any kind of expectation involved with open-minded to whatever might happen, and be willing to take other people's criticism in a good way and move forward with it. That's what it's all about.
Yeah, that's a huge part of the creative process, I think. And it's one of the things that I've found working as an on-air announcer over the years. I have, since I started in radio, I would do what I call air checks, and people who work in the industry are familiar with that means, and you guys might do the same thing. But it is, you record your show, and then you listen back to it, and you say, I like what I did here, this needs to change, this I can do better. And it's nice to have your own input and feedback on it, because I think we're really critical of ourselves in a way that helps us to kind of move forward and say, yeah, this needs to be changed. But it's also, I found, really helpful to have the feedback of people who work within the industry. And in your case, it would be fellow musicians who would say, hey, this sounds good. This is where you might want to make some changes. Because that, in my opinion, is part of the creative process, but it's also part of the growth process. I mean, we're human beings. We're here to have these kind of experiences in life. And if we shelter ourselves, and we don't always have that opportunity.
I totally agree. With the self-criticism, like, I think that's definitely important. It's always good to seek outside opinions, but you should never, like, make sure that, like, oh, just because I like this person this way and that they said this sort of negative and or just, different thing about what I'm working on musically, shouldn't just throw it away. But also going to college, things like that for music, you are gaining the tools to be real self-critical of your exact performance versus, does this sound quality on this recording sound good? So those are small things that we can change over time, but our actual music performance, those are, in my opinion, really personal. And so I really don't see too much outside opinions on how I play. Just the overall general sound of it. Does this sound good? Yeah. Versus what do you think of my bass lines or my solo that I did there? I'm not really too interested in that kind of feedback.
Yeah. Well, I think
on the different spectrum, I like to hear some of that feedback because it helps with growth, especially that I just basically took up playing leads recently, and to hear back from Mike and Michael if they like it or not, it's a character builder. You could say, I don't like this, but I did like that. And it's like, okay, then I can focus on this a little bit more and do a little bit more here.
We could be his de facto college professors, because that's what I had for 2 years of my academic career in a music school, saying you shouldn't play it like this, you should play it like this. And so, and you get a lot of that information. You learn what to do and what not to do. And that's a lot of how you grow as a musician and as a person.
Yeah, exactly. But your own sound is your sound. Yeah. I've discovered that if you try to play through another instrument or through another amplifier or with other pedals or effects, you don't really play as well. It doesn't feel the same, is what's the weird part about it. I can play the same notes on a line 6 and it will sound to me like I'm fumbling through like a novice. But then I put it through my effects pedals and play the same thing. It's like, oh, this is butter. I love it. I could even do more. So it really depends on the individual's tone and what they're trying to accomplish. That makes it better for them, but that also contributes to how well the band does.
And I will agree, the quality of the instrument does matter. It really does. There are student model guitars out there that sound good and play good, but when you buy a professional guitar, you can literally feel on the neck board the craftsmanship and the time that it took to make this instrument feel so good and be so responsive to the hands.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I have to ask you, Mike, when you and Brett arrived here, or prior to the two of you arriving here, I was having a conversation with P.D. Paul, and I was telling him that Brett's collection of guitars rivals the collection of mountain bikes that my husband has. And I'm wondering for you, do you find that you have more than one of any instrument, and do you I don't want to say an addiction, but there's great pleasure in having multiple instruments?
It could be a detriment sometimes. Just recently I picked up an organ. Yeah, so an old church organ. It's nearly as big as one section of your desk. Weighs 1,000 pounds. Me and my brother could barely lift it into the pickup truck, and it's taking up a large, substantial spot in our studio right now. Yeah. So yeah, sometimes multiple guitars, multiple bass guitars, multiple speaker stacks, multiple towers, things like that. Just way too much stuff, but you feel like you need it all to make the music you want to make.
At the same time, like I have several different guitars, but each one of them has a different sound. I could have the same model and the same humbucker pickups and everything, and they'll have a totally different sound. It's really weird how that works. You plug them in, you think you got the same sound, you're going to have the same kind of feel, but then the configuration's different and it sounds differently. So it really depends on what you want to accomplish with the sound, so what guitar you're going to pick up for that song.
Yeah. Well, I have a question I want to ask the two of you real quickly, and then we're going to go and get into some music here. I'm always curious how band members meet. And so I think there's a history with the two of you working at the same place, like you made reference to at the top of the hour at the School of Rock. But you guys also have an affiliation with Sunshine Studios here in Colorado Springs. So how does that work?
Well, I've played Sunshine way in the past, probably like 2014, 2015. It's been a while because that band, we just all of a sudden started playing exclusively in Denver. And then, of course, 2020 happened, as everyone remembers. And so I just pretty much dropped out. But after that first couple of weeks of being at home, I was like, I got really bored. I started bringing instruments from my studio to my house and just started practicing. And I practiced for months and months and months. Got the job at the School of Rock and met Brett. He was already working there. And then with Sunshine, though, like all of a sudden, we've met this new teacher that we had there at the school, Scott.
Well, actually, too, School of Rock started playing a lot of their gigs exclusively at Sunshine Studios.
Yeah, that as well. And so there was a good rapport going on there. And unfortunately, a lot of the industry it's not what you know, it's who you know. It's how I've gotten a lot of great shows over the years. But Sunshine Studio were really responsive. We were able to go there and play for them on their stage. And they were just like, wow, we love it. We want you to play here. Book shows immediately. Let's go. And just amazing. They treat you better than most bars would treat local bands and things like that. No doubt about it.
Yeah, it's good to have the connection of Scott, who is the husband of Christina, and he works at the School of Rock a little bit too as an instructor. So we have that connection, and the way we met, Mike and Michael obviously worked at the School of Rock, and one day I approached Mike and said, hey, this other musician and I are thinking about, his name's Bob, he's with a different band now, we were thinking about getting together and doing some stuff, and Mike just jumped on and said, yeah, let's do it. So we went and started doing that, and we talked for a while about who else we're going to get, and Michael was not doing anything. And he jumped in and said, oh, absolutely. So we've been a band together with the three of us for over about a year and a half now, isn't it?
I can't remember exactly. Definitely at least a year and a half, if not up to almost 2 years. It was sometime in the summertime, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it was. And we're growing constantly, which is fantastic. We have the possibility of a new guitarist joining us, who's 25 years old, so he gives us that different perspective on things.
Yep.
And
good generational gap. It's how the band was working. Everyone was from their own decade, 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s, sort of thing like that. And so we'll have a 20s, 30s, 40s.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yep.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and take a break real quickly. You're listening to Gnarly Metal After Hours on gnarly101.com. Here's AC/DC. So you're listening to Gnarly Metal After Hours. We just heard from the Replacements. Each time I bring a guest into the studio, or guests plural into the studio, I ask them to put together their own playlist for music that we play during the course of this 1 hour show. My guests today are the members of Mad Rygel. They're a band out of Colorado Springs. And we heard the Replacements. Before that, Fish. And who else did we hear? We heard from Jethro Tull, and we started off at the top of the hour with AC/DC's A Long Way to the Top. So I don't know who made the suggestions of which songs, so I'm going to let you guys discuss whichever songs you have in that section of 4 songs that we just heard.
Well, I brought in Jethro Tull. Of course, AC/DC is something we all like. So, and Long Way to the Top is that is the music industry. So it's appropriate for us. But Jethro Tull has always been one of my favorite bands. His lyrics are very poignant, and that they're a jazz fusion rock band is just amazing. The way that that he wrote all of his songs and the way they put it together, I just loved all the intricacies of all the different instruments. And of course, being a jazz flautist, man, that guy can really play.
It's incredible, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. But in this song, the clasp. There's two reasons I like this. The lyrics are extremely poignant for what we're dealing with today. I think if you listen to them, it's basically telling us that we forgot how to be human, and we're more along the lines of being automatons doing what we're told. And so I don't like that, but that brings it to point with that song. The other thing that I love about it is the drums. He has that drum kit going, man, and it's just it really just gets into my soul. That's one of the things I love. But then they bring all the other stuff in on top of it, and to me it brings a vision of like being on the desert with hard weather hood, they said. And the desert is the climate that we're in. You can be in an emotional desert, you can be in a real desert. And I think right now humanity is in a virtual emotional desert. We don't know what it's like to be human anymore, and we don't make those connections anymore. And I think it's important that we do. So that's why that song has such a resonance with me.
And for the Fish song, it was picked by our drummer, Michael, and he is a very, very big Fish fan. He's been to, I think, somewhere along the 15 shows, if not more. I can't remember the exact number. Like we were discussing earlier, I've only been to one, but Fish is a live one, so it was a collection of live cuts from around the time of 1994. That was one of the 4 albums that the band that we all dropped out of music school together, and we decided to keep playing music, and we played music in a band for 8 years after college. But that was one of the albums that inspired us the most, and we would listen to it nonstop, night after night after night. Just one out of the 4. We'd spend every time we would get off work, immediately go listen to those albums.
One of the nice things about Fish is they're primarily a jam band,
yeah.
And that's what we love to do as well, is just take off on a tangent and see where it goes.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, because you can have fun playing songs, but you can have even more fun creating songs. And so why not create songs live?
You create in the moment, and that's really where the fun is.
And then for me, I picked the Replacements Bastard of Young, because I love his melodies. Just such incredible, epic, shout at the top of your lungs melodies. I'm alive, I'm here. And that was one of the things I did in music school. Was I was a jazz improvisational saxophone player. And so the idea is to create melodies as fast as you can. Can you create a better melody than you just did in this solo? Keep going. What's the next melody going to sound like? And so when you can have something that not only would resonate with a seasoned musician, but with just every person on the street, you hear that and you're like, yes, this is what music does to us.
Yeah, it's magic in some ways.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we're going to take a quick break. Stay close. More Gnarly Metal After Hours after this short break.
It's on gnarly101.com.
Welcome back to Gnarly Metals After Hours. I'm Kelly Thomas, and I'm joined in the studio today by the members of Mad Rygel, a Colorado Springs band. We were talking about music a little bit earlier. I invite each band and each guest who comes into the show to put together a playlist for the course or the duration of the show. We've got more music from the playlist that our friends at Mad Rygel have put together. That's going to be coming up in just a minute. But first, I want to return our conversation to talking about, well, in general, music. I was wondering if the two of you might want to comment on how your band comes together when you're writing original songs or lyrics or music, anything along that side. It's the creative process that I guess I'm kind of enamored with, because I don't really have that creative process when it comes to putting music together. So I have great admiration for people who have the ability to put things together in the right place with the right sense of timing and the right musical accompaniment. What do you guys do? How do you make it happen? How do you make the magic?
Well, the first thing we do is we defer usually to this guy right here.
Hey.
Yeah.
That's me.
Yeah, that's first and foremost.
I rate the lyrics.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah, sometimes I come up with a chord progression with the lyrics, and then I'll throw it out there and say, what do you guys think? And they'll say, oh, let's change that, and let's change this. Let's move this here. Let's put in a bridge here, or how about an interlude there? And let's change go to a different key right here. It's just all kinds of fun. The thing is bringing in a foundation. To me, I've had foundations all my life, and it's just like throw them out here and see what we can build with it. So it's a wonderful experience. Actually, I love it. It's fantastic. We just wrote a new song. I brought to the guys the other day, and we're working on that right now. And we got some things to work on it, but it's going to be an interesting one. It could fit with the station really well.
Excellent.
And it's just a lot of times like, it'll come up with that. Just if you have a basic idea and a good foundation of song structure, of how you want your lyrics to sound, how you want your chord changes to sound, all the other things, in my opinion, are where I take over. And it's really easy for me to just say, we should do this. This should be longer. We should change key here. And that was one of the first things that we did in one of his earlier songs that we started playing as a band. And then after that, for like me, I am terrible at lyrics. I feel like I write words like a third grader, and so I just don't do it. And that's not the best advice, just to not do it. You should practice. No matter what you want to be good at, it takes time.
Hey.
But I'll come to the studio and like, I've got these chords, I've got this melody, and things like that. And we've written some instrumentals off of that, but sometimes, and it's happened before, he immediately will have lyrics for the chord changes that I have. And we'll go from there, and things like that. Just it'll happen from one direction and then the next direction.
Yeah, so a certain kind of synergy, I'm guessing you guys
It does take a little bit of that, but like sort of like not necessarily anticipating each other's moves, but saying that we can put our personalities into the music in one way or another.
All we need is an idea, and then we can bark up a tree.
Yeah, there you go. I'm wondering if you guys might want to take a few minutes now and tell our listening audience where your band might be playing next, any upcoming shows, information they can have so they can come and check you out live.
Well, we're going to be at Sunshine Studios on August 22nd and September 27th.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and what times are these shows?
7 o'clock, right?
So, no earlier than 6:30 is what I was told for the show coming up on August 22nd. So Thursday night, as long as you show up by 6:30, you'll be able to catch the first band. I do not know the order of bands other than the headliner will be the last band, because that's usually the way things work like that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, and this is a good time to put in a plug for the tickets that we gave you.
Oh, boy.
Yes.
Ooh.
Well, our sincere thanks to Christina over at Sunshine Studio, and they have provided us 20 tickets for the September 27th show. Mm-hmm. That show features your band with a number of other local bands.
I believe a few other local bands, and then I'm not sure of the headliner. It's a band called When September Ends. I'm not sure if that's like a Green Day cover band or what, but I tried looking them up. I didn't find anything. But
it may just be the name of the show, because I didn't find anything about that either.
Possibly that could be the name of the actual show,
because it's ending in September.
At the very end of September. So.
See? So it could be.
Well, stay tuned here to Gnarly, because I'm working with PD Paul, and we are going to put together opportunities that will allow all of you to win some tickets to check out Mad Rygel and a number of other bands. This, of course, just for those folks who are local here to Colorado Springs. We really pride ourselves in working with not just local bands, but community locally here. We feel like that's a big part of what radio stations did historically in the 80s. Yep. And we feel it's important to continue to do that now. As Brett alluded to earlier, things are kind of chaotic in the world we live in right now. And, we'd like to do our part to help bring people back to the 80s one song at a time. So speaking of songs, I'm going to go back into the music. We've got 4 more songs lined up, and we're going to start off with Adolescence. We're going to go and follow that up with the Misfits, and then the Talking Heads and Motorhead. And if you guys want to just tell me who has chosen what song, and then on the flip side of the songs, we'll go ahead and talk a little bit more at length about the songs themselves.
So I chose the first two, the Adolescents. I've got a good story about the drummer from that band. And then the next song, the Misfits song, I chose that one just because not only do I have also another good story about that band, but they were the linchpin of Metallica. So we'll talk about how that happens.
Motorhead was picked by Michael, wasn't he?
I believe so, but that's another band that it's all, a lot of bands influenced Metallica, and you go back and listen to those bands, it's just like, wow, these are incredible finds that were not traditionally played on radio stations, didn't have music videos on MTV or anything like that, so
yeah. Well, right now it's the Adolescents on gnarly101.com. Life During Wartime. It's the Talking Heads. Before that, we heard from the Misfits, Die, Die, My Darling. And I'm trying to remember who we started it off with.
The Adolescents.
Yes, thank you, the Adolescents. So let's talk first about the Talking Heads. You said that was a Michael contribution?
Yes, that was our drummer Michael's song. He loves the Talking Heads. They're just a great art school band out of Rhode Island, I believe. Hit CBGBs with a storm. Made a big impact. I've seen a band, Widespread Panic. They're one of the bigger jazz bands. They've sold out at Red Rocks 60 some odd times in a row. And they used to do that song live, and just one of my favorite ones, too.
Then Misfits was yours, Mike.
Yep,
correct?
I picked an all indie / punk rock playlist for this 80s show.
Excellent.
Yep, with the Adolescents, like you hear when I was in junior high, Green Day hit big, and so you were like, "What is this punk rock thing?" And so as I got older, was able to actually go buy albums because I had my own money by then, sort of thing like that. You find all these old bands, the Adolescents, the Dickies, Black Flag, and all these early 80s hardcore punk bands from Southern California. And their influence just stretched so far, so under the radar for so many years. Now you see rock stars wearing Black Flag t-shirts and things like that all the time. And they consider themselves musical terrorists. And so you don't really see like how great or not great their music is. It's art, and art's supposed to be polarizing. You love it, you hate it. But I got to play a show with the lead singer of that song. He was namely the drummer, Casey Royer, and we see that like lead singer syndrome where some people aren't approachable. He approached us. He was like, "Hey guys, it's great to have you here. Do you want a beer?" And we just had such a great show. His band was amazing. They're called DI. All those bands that we played with, for the most part, have been just that way. They've been welcoming, even bands that you didn't play with, bands that all of a sudden you're just sitting down and the lead singer comes sit right next to you and starts up a conversation. That's happened, especially to my guitar player, a bunch of times. But then we go to the Misfits, and it's a little bit different of a story, unfortunately. So after we played that one show with the band with Casey Royer, DI, the promoter of the show was like, "All right, we'll see you guys here next month for the next show." I'm like, "What do you mean?" Next month is Thanksgiving holiday. I've got a cruise booked that I booked for 6 months. So I wasn't able to, it was the Misfits, and I wasn't able to play the show. My guitar player was. He said, "You probably had a better time on vacation." Yep. The lead singer was, I think it was Jerry Only at the time. He was not just sociable. He pretty much kept himself separated from everyone else. But he got to talk to the band members of the Misfits and said they were really nice guys. One of them signed his amplifier. So, it's really, really cool things happened. But unfortunately, it says it was like a downer of a show. Not everybody was having the best time, unlike the show before where it was just the best night ever.
Yeah, that's pretty incredible,
Yeah.
especially with these, I call them the brush with fame.
Yes.
It seems as though some people are a little bit more gracious and others are a lot more standoffish.
Yep. And it's could it be a personal thing, their own sort of thing, what's in their head, or they've reached such an amount of success that they expect that from now on, or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Take anything for granted.
Yeah, for me, I was always lucky, barely breaking even on tours, sleeping on hotel floors, a crash pad full of cockroaches,
Charming.
Oh, it's a hard life out there sometimes for independent, unsigned, musicians. But I can always say, how bad this situation was. I got out of it alive.
Yeah.
I got out of it not being in jail, and I had a great story to tell from it.
Yeah.
A lot of good experiences.
Yeah. A lot of great experiences. Traveling across the country, playing shows, it's best.
Well, it's an incredible opportunity to spend some time here talking with you guys. Before I go, I'd like you just to take a moment to tell people where they can find social media links, websites, where your band will be playing. If you just recap that information for me, please.
No problem. Well, you can go to Instagram or Facebook and search Mad Rygel. So it's MAD space RYGEL. Even on YouTube, we'll be the first one to come up. And you can always, we were promoting the show for Sunshine Studios, you can always go to their website and look at their concert calendar. And they have a lot of great shows there happening there all the time.
Yeah, they do.
As I said, the band I mentioned earlier, Black Flag, they were there last month, and they just put on such a great show. Amazing.
Your social media contacts are simply Mad Rygel.
Yep, Mad Rygel. Just search Mad Rygel,
Okay.
and we will be the first one to come up.
The only ones that are out.
Brett, how about you? Closing words?
Oh, just look us up and have some fun.
I thought you were going to say, "Oh, behave."
Oh, behave.
Well, you've been listening to Gnarly Metal After Hours, a live monthly show that features conversations with radio announcers, musicians, and fans about radio, rock, and records from the 80s. A big thanks to my friends from Mad Rygel. Now, real quickly, there will be a replay of this show. It's going to be posted on YouTube at Gnarly Metal After Hours. I should get it up there within the next 2 days or so. At the same time, you will also be able to catch the replay of the Gnarly Metal After Hours show on my 2 social media pages, Facebook and Instagram at Gnarly Metal. And I'm Kelly Thomas. Until next time, have a great weekend. Peace, and keep it right here on gnarly101.com for the very best of the 80s.